So, do you want to win the upcoming Webtoon Contest? Well, we are going to look at past winners in order to figure out what they did in order to win. I have a number of ideas of why these comics won, what made them stand out in the judges' minds as well as readers' minds, and so we're going to be covering everything that's involved with this one episode third place winner, Code Grace. So, as usual, you can pause the screen to read the disclaimer, but I just want to throw this out there that take everything with a grain of salt. And so, I thought that would be much more interesting for us to actually look at the story itself. So, I'm going to switch over to the Webtoon. And so here you can see all of the information. And I just want to cover a few things. I find their thumbnail as well as their cover image super interesting. Like, it immediately screams intrigue to me, but it's not too busy. It definitely has ways of focusing the eyes and drawing attention to itself. And so I think that's going to be really important for people to click on your series, is to have good visuals and to have a pretty decent title. Now, Code Grace doesn't necessarily jump out to me, but it doesn't confuse me either. So I think that's something to always consider. I'm not going to cover the description because I personally don't feel that many readers read the descriptions. You guys could disagree with me on that, but I think most people just click on it and then read the episode. So, upon looking at the first few panels, I felt like it was so important because I bring this up a lot where I talk about the fact that a reader could click away from the opening panel all the way to maybe panel 5 or panel 10. And I think it's extremely important to understand exactly what we're looking at. So this is our first panel that we get. And remember, this was an action contest. And so right away, this first panel sets the tone immediately of what the series is about. Like, you get a little bit of tension, you get that there's some drama, you get that something is happening. And so despite the fact that we don't necessarily know what's going on, immediately your mind is already working, trying to figure out what's happening. Building curiosity or intrigue with the reader is super important, and it can be done a number of ways, even with small, tiny things that we might consider to be mundane. They are things that can spark interest in the reader. Remember, the reader is trying to figure out what's going on, and they're trying to figure out why to keep reading your story. So having little bitty crumbs, little bitty things that can add up to a positive in the reader's mind is super important. And I think the first panel, just like the first sentence in a novel, is very important. People can agree or disagree with that, but that's just my own personal take. And even when looking at this panel, it doesn't necessarily indicate anything in terms of it being a character introduction or maybe something lore based or world building based. Well, it does kind of give world building a little bit, but what I'm saying is the panel is not necessarily something that is over the top. It's just the building, and it just really sets the tone of the world. Serendi said, so why this webtoon never continued despite winning third place? I have no clue. We'd have to talk to the creator to figure out if they're moving forward with their original plans. I'm assuming they are, because from what I understand, most, I can't remember because I don't have the instructions in front of me, but I think most contest winners, especially the top 3, have to accept a contract in order to receive the money. So either they're still in pre-production, or they decided to quit and they gave the money back. Okay, so let's look at the first few panels. So we've looked at panel 1, So panel 2, we're seeing individuals running. We see these birds, and which links us back to panel 1 where we saw the feathers flying. So we see these birds. It looks like the people are running away from the birds. We have this like tone of like people are afraid, people are in fear. Like look at the expression on this woman's face. And just from these few panels, we can tell like this is something that's really, really scary to this world. Like this is something that people are afraid of, something that they fear, something that just reinforces the fact that this is not going to be a soft little story. It's going to have moments of possible despair. It's going to have moments where people are struggling. Like it's basically not indicating that it's going to be a lighthearted story. And so all of this is set up within 4 panels. So that's what I'm saying. You can do so much with your opening panels that do not involve dialogue, that do not involve exposition. It just involves a couple of really good placed panels that indicate exactly what the readers can look forward to as the story develops. So in panel 5 and 6, so this panel here, not this panel, this panel here, and this panel. So these 2 panels, panels 5 and 6, are actually our exposition panels, and they're telling us what's going on. The creator did a really good job of doing it through like a news broadcast, which is a great way to offer info to the world. Like obviously if there was an attack, logically in our mind, like the news would cover it. The news would bring up issues that are happening and really try to alert the people as to what's going on. So this was a really nice example of giving just enough information of what's needed. So if we look at the amount of panels or speech bubbles, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, 4 speech bubbles of exposition. That's it. That's all the exposition we really get to set the tone for the story that's attached to 2 panels. So I just want you to think about your series and the information that you're giving. Are you giving too much information? This creator decided that this was enough information to give readers in order for them to understand what was happening right then. Sometimes creators fall into this trap of not understanding that you're giving me too much lore or too much exposition when you could cut out so much of it to still make the scene work. And so I would encourage anybody who's kind of developing their story to really figure out like, if I take this away, how does this still read? So if you have, I don't know, maybe let's say 5 panels of exposition, can you take that out and narrow it down to maybe 3? Could you even do 2? And then could you take out the speech bubbles? Like how much text can you take out? Like we don't need that much exposition at the beginning of the story to really dive into the world. So I will say another thing that I love is the onomatopoeia in this comic. It looks so good. It's so interesting. And so we have a few panels of, you know, our birds kind of wilding out. And so this is the first panel. This is panel 9. And so I think it's super important within the first 10 panels to get a number of things. And one of these is introducing your main character. You don't have to introduce them immediately, but I need to see them before moving forward in the story. I need enough information to be clarified that whose journey am I on? Who am I following? What's going on? Now, there are exceptions to this rule. So we have multi-POV stories, we have ensemble casts, we have maybe a story where you have a narrator opening up the story that's kind of giving us information, and then they introduce us to the main character. So there's a number of ways to get around this. So basically I'm saying there's exceptions to every rule. But I think from a normal standpoint, like if you're just telling the story about one specific character, it's completely reasonable to expect that I would meet our MC by at least panel 10. So here we get our MC in panel 9. And what's interesting about this that you do not notice is it does not show the MC's face. I think the creators of this did this for a number of reasons. It builds automatic intrigue. So if we look at this, most people are running. Like there's a bit of a blur of this person running away from the attack that's happening. But we see that our main character is walking towards the issue that is happening, the bird outbreak. So it kind of already sets up from this panel, which maybe a lot of people might miss it. Maybe they would get it. It varies. But we're already getting a bit of the type of person that this character is. And so that's panel 9. Look at these next few panels. So we still haven't seen their face. So there's one panel without their face, 2 panels without their face, 3 panels without their face, 4 panels without the face, 5, 6. And so my point with all of this is it's building up to a very epic moment for the reader. Like these creators took into consideration how their audience would view this, and they really wanted their main lead to have like a very impactful scene. So could they have introduced her? Like, could they have done this panel and then introduced her? Absolutely. And it probably still would have read the same. But the difference is they decided to build up hype around this character to really show that she's the leading lady and that she's somebody special. Like we can even see like we're still getting like exposition and background information here. And then finally we get a very intriguing panel. I'll come back to this. But finally, after seeing this setup with these really cool eyes and seeing her, visual facial expression, we're pulled into a full body panel of our MC. Now, I think she looks pretty cool. I do think she's a little plain, but I also think that is strategic as well. Like she has a very relatable style and a relatable face in terms that like she's not overly pretty. She's a pretty character, but I think if somebody who's reading this, like a fan, could definitely see themselves as this character. Like I have that outfit in my closet sort of thing, or I have that hairstyle. Like it's nothing over the top or crazy. And so it really allows the reader to put themselves in the character's shoes. Now, that's not always necessarily the case. Like you don't have to make a character where you feel that the reader needs to put themselves in that character's shoes. I'm just bringing out that I think that could be a number of reasons why her styling is not over the top. I think she looks really cool, and I think she looks like a modern, everyday type girl. So going back to this, I will say that we do get some exposition of the character. And so she's talking about herself. She's talking about what type of person she is. And so although we saw in this panel that she's moving towards the danger, it's reinforced here by her saying that she says, I wonder if that's what my parents told me. Well, either way, sorry, mom and dad, but only I can fix this. So we get like a lot more personality. We get to understand like what type of character she is. And this is all done within the first 16 panels. So we get a lot of really epic information from only seeing so little. So I think it's important to understand. Hi, Day Day. Hi, Kai. So I think it's really important to understand like your main character, your lead, is somebody who's important to your overall story. And you want readers to feel like this character is important. You want them to feel that they're, epic, depending on the genre. Like maybe you want readers to feel that they're beautiful. Maybe you want readers to feel that they're relatable. But you want the readers to feel something, not just the fact that here's the main lead. And so I think this was set up really nicely with the world. So we saw in the beginning how the world really established like the tone that people are afraid of this. And then we get to the point of our MC who's like, I'm not afraid of this. I'm going to fight this. That automatically sets up a cool dynamic between like the story and the reader. So the reader understands that we're following somebody who's heroic, who's inspirational to people. And so that's where I think it's important to understand that when you have images like this, we want them to be impactful. I like to refer to these as money shots. They're shots that should stick out in the reader's mind, things that you really want to emphasize, or things that they will find fun and enjoyable. So money shots, and this is from my standpoint, money shots are not always going to be like a beauty shot or a glamour shot, but they are going to be something also that the reader could enjoy. So this could be like an epic fight scene where the user is using their special move, like you might draw something really cool. This could be something where you want to emphasize, you know, a specific moment where the art just goes so hard, and it's not just like a basic drawing or a basic background image. It's something that showcases something special. And so when the readers are reading this, maybe they'll stop for a moment to notice that there is some extra love put into this panel. So as we continue, what's fun about this series is the visuals are cool, but we almost get a second character introduction. And I think that this is a really good contrast because we get this full illustration, but then if we scroll down a little bit more, and so this is by panel 25, we kind of get the vibe. We get that she's like a magical girl type. And so we see her full transformation happen. We see, where is it? We're going to come back to these panels too. So we get her full transformation here, and this is like the epicness. Like this is where we see the relatable girl that any girl could be is transformed into a very cool, very stylish type character. And so it's almost like a makeover. Like people understand that very easily. And I would say what's also very cool about this is the sequence of this transformation is a reference for the audience. So thinking about your audience and understanding them, like you're making a magical girl story more or less. Well, what's in a lot of magical girl stories? The magical girl transformation. And so that's what we get here. And it's super epic. Like we get the outfit change. We get the like coating of the character's skin. We get the sparkles, we get the jewelry, we get the new outfit, the hair is done, and then we get like this epic like drop down onto the world where it just screams like, look at me, like understand that these panels are very cool and amazing, and someone who's reading this is the things that they would enjoy. Like, don't be afraid to let your readers enjoy things. Like this is why they're reading the whole story. They want for the immersion of having a fun story that they can enjoy. So sometimes I think we as creators get hung up on different aspects of the story that are enjoyable to us, but we have to remember to feed the reader too. Like the reader wants to enjoy different moments, and if you're making a magical girl story and you don't include a magical girl transformation, I mean, it could still work. I don't think Madoka has a lot of them, but it's still something that is expected from the genre. That's completely okay, are you? As long as they don't look exactly the same. So I think you'll be fine. So by episode 25, by panel 25, we see that we're getting into the story. Like we're getting into the heart of the action. And remember, this is an action series. So by panel 25, we're there. Like we're about to enter into exactly like this world and the setup for the fight. And I just want you to remember, like, we only got a little bit of exposition in panels 5 and 6, and then from that point on, it's been characterization of our MC up to this transformation. And so now after this, we see like the action actually starting. We see a lot of movement. We see a lot of of the character doing their attacks, and it's just like creating moments to show like the character's power, show who they are, show a little bit more of their personality. Yes, Cube. I love Madoka. Serenity said that's why they made her original look so plain. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, that's why I was saying it's strategic. Like, they did not want, like, that character competing with this character. They wanted clear distinctions between the two. But there are instances, like in Sailor Moon, where literally I don't understand how people don't know that the characters are not the same. Because, like, literally the transfer, they don't wear masks. Like, they don't even have that excuse. It's very much the Superman thing. But I'm just saying, it's a nice contrast and a nice visual indicator when she's in her like superhuman, superpowered mode. So you think of like miraculous Ladybug or whatever. Like we know when she's Ladybug and we know when she's Marinette based off of her outfit. And so the same thing can be said here. Although I feel like this creator went a step further and it's almost like a character creation because we got a lot of digital references. Like, if we look here, we get user detected. That's like a computer reference. If we look earlier, where is it? Before the, with the transformation, we see like code. Like there's a lot of tiny details that the creator indicated here to really make like it very immersive. And then we have window screens. Like these window screens are also like easily recognizable as like a computer screen. So there's a bunch of reference here that is fun for the reader and helps them to be like more immersed in the story, despite not knowing everything that's going on. Hi, Zion. Allison, have a romance theme comic won a place in the competition? Yeah. From what I remember, they mentioned one. Kissbet won a competition. That's like on their page. They said it won. So there's been tons of different series that have become originals after entering into contests, if that's what you're wondering. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the panels. And I just want to, like, I'm not an expert at panels, but I can say when I find panels that I find to be interesting or fun. Hi, Jess. Oh my God, we have 50 people here. What is going on? Hello, everyone. I was not expecting all of you to be here. If you have questions, let me know. So let's talk a little bit about panels, getting back on this. I like if we look at how this goes, the panels flow very well. Like we can see the movement, we can understand how it transitions into the next panel, and we get a lot of like fun. So see how this even flows, like this breaks out of the box and it flows into the next panel. The creators did a lot of that, where it makes the panels feel immersive, almost like you're watching something opposed to reading it. Hi, Slime. And when we look here, oh, well, I went a little too far. But if we look here, like all of these panels are connected. Like how cool is that? Like connected panels. And that's something that I think is really important, especially for certain stories. Like it really helps to add to the action of what's going on. We saw another flowing panel, and I don't know if that's the correct terminology for it, but that's what I'm using. But we see that earlier with the transformation. So after she hits like yes, we get like this big swoosh, and then we just see how the transformation panels just lock in, link together. And you can almost like feel like it's like a old school animatic. You can like just visualize so clearly the transformation, how all the panels are connected and moving in together. And it just like, especially this, like we jump down to this and you can just feel her falling, like feel that like superhero drop. And look at this. Like, do you see how that just flowed directly into this? Those are things to consider, especially for an action genre series. Like, that's what people who enjoy action would want to read. They want to almost feel like the story is moving on its own as they look at the panels. it requires a ton of work and a ton of imagination, in my opinion. But I think that it's still something that's super cool. Like, it's something that, with a little bit of practice, I think any creator could do. Oh, Shay, I'm glad you can make it. Are you? What is up? Yes, yes. So the composition is really nice, and that does help with the visual appeal. But see, I think it's more than that. I think the fact that it's so immersive, it makes for the reading not to feel very stagnant. It makes it feel not clunky. So sometimes when you're reading a comic and you feel like it's hard to read, I think part of that is because like either the lettering wasn't done right or the panel flow wasn't done right. And this comic just knows that there didn't need to be any dialogue in these panels. The onomatopoeia did enough for it, and they knew that we almost don't get any dialogue for like 10 panels. No exposition, no narrative. We get this one little info card. So I think it's important to study exactly what type of panels in the series that you want to use. Like, I'm not saying that right. I think it's important to understand the panels in the genre that you're entering. So that way you can incorporate it into your series. So if you have something that's heavy on fighting or something like that, like this is a perfect example of the flowing panel type of structure. But I will say another thing that that she does really well is these like very dynamic, like off kilter panels, like different types of angles, and it just keeps the reading of the series so interesting. So I think that's also something that anybody should consider and should keep in mind. So our next thing is like the onomatopoeia, the syntax, and I've mentioned it a lot, but like you can just see that so much care was put into the lettering, and the lettering makes such a big difference in the way the panels are read. Because I was thinking about a comic that I read recently, and it had none of that. It had none of the onomatopoeia or none of the SFX, and it made me wonder sometimes like what was going on. Like here, I wouldn't necessarily know without the tap that she tapped down. I mean, could I infer that? Sure. But having just this one little thing here, like, oh, tap, like obviously she just like finished her transformation and she just touched down on one, like it adds so much to the overall visualization for the reader and understanding the moment as to what's happening. This like whoosh sound, and see, she uses like different colors, different ways to indicate what's going on, and sometimes like the information is kind of hidden in there, like this wah, like you almost don't even notice that the first time you're reading it. Or swoosh, this swoosh, swah. You almost don't even notice it. So like look at this, the cling. Like all of this is very much immersive, and it adds so much to it. Like the little tap here. Where is it? There's another moment that I want to show you guys. Oh, see, like with the birds, they get it in black. So everything, there was so much care and effort put into all of the comic, like every aspect of it. And I'm sure a lot of you are like, oh my god, that is one more thing I need to add to my plate. I would say they go super hard on it. You don't have to go that hard, but it does make a big difference. Like it really, I feel, adds a lot to the comic, because like even if these birds were just sitting here, I wouldn't necessarily know that they were cawing without the onomatopoeia. Like some people might automatically assume, but I also think that this just clarifies what's going on in the panel. Kalmai said there's a lot of visually interesting / appealing panel choices. I agree with that. Slime said, one of my favorite parts of working on my contest submission is making creative panels and transitions. Yes, transitions was the word I was looking for. Yeah, like having super fun transitions, I think is so interesting. And I think that it really can, give a wow moment to a reader. Aryu said the onomatopoeias are a character unto themselves. They are. Like, whoever did their lettering, I want to hire them. Just the Goob said the motion blur on the text, Rumble specifically, is so clever, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of moments in here that are just so very interesting. I'm gonna just call you Rambler. The onomatopoeia can also be used to help you get a feel for how sound works in the environment the character is in, like if it's really echoey or muffled. I agree. I think that's really important to indicate, because there's other things that like we may not know. Like, how would we know characters are whispering? I just learned this recently about the way a speech bubble can go. But like, there could have been tons of scenes that I've read in webtoons where the characters were whispering and I would have never known had it not been for like an onomatopoeia or for a specific way a speech bubble was drawn. And there's a lot of fun ways to do it, and this comic is a really good example of like being like an A tier letterer. Kai said, I know I shouldn't be too hard on myself for making my first comic ever, but looking at this small section of the story makes me feel like my paneling / pacing is way too fast squished together. Well, the perfect thing about that is, Kai, is you have until May 15th to enter. So that automatically means that you have time to add additional panels. You have time to flush out some more things. Like, just don't be so quick to enter. Like, just make sure you've got everything down before entering and you really understand, like, this is the best that I can do with my story right now. Like, you've got this, my guy. Like, that's why we're looking at this, so that we can learn. Scarlett said, sorry, this is a little off topic, but what is your recommendation for picking a genre? I lean toward fantasy, but I won't say my story is most epic. It depends on what the story's about. So if you can tell me story beats, I can offer some advice. Okay, so let's continue to move forward. The last thing that I wanted to mention was the effects. So you guys already mentioned it on like some of the onomatopoeia having like the blur and whatnot, but I also want to mention there's a glitch effect. And so again, that fits in with the overall theming of the world. Like, you can really see, without saying anything, there's so much world building involved in this comic that they don't need to tell the readers like this is something computer related or something in the digital space. You can kind of infer that. And I'm sure as the comic goes on, they would talk about it. They would talk about like it being digital. They would talk about like entering into the digital world, or they would talk about like more lore heavy stuff of why they think this is happening, or like what they need to do, that sort of thing. And that's where I was talking about the sort of like game creation sort of vibes that it gives. Like, it gives magical girl, but it also gives game creator. Aw, amateur, what is up? Okay, so my last thing that I think everyone needs to consider with their story is the fun factors for the audience. So we've been talking about it a lot already, and I've already been covering a good bit of information with you guys about, you know, things that the readers would find enjoyable and the way that it's being set up. And so I was talking about the video game elements, but you see it even more clearly. And this is what I was talking about. Like, they did not come out immediately and just say like, oh, there's video game elements to this, or hey, you need to, you know, this is like a Smash Bros or something like that. Like, you are invested in the world first, and then they slowly trickle out information as it becomes available. So, hold on. I'm trying to make it to the moment. Like, look at all these panels that we have to pass in order for me to get to the moment that I'm talking about. We'll come back to him as well. Okay, right here. So we get all the way, like we're halfway in, and this is the first time we're getting a mention of augmented items. She's been using an item to fight this whole time, but it was not relevant to the story until this character was entered. And so then This just gives me like old school shonen vibes, but also like old school magical girl vibes where they would call out their attack. And so that's something that's fun for the audience. Think about like a 7-year-old reading this for the first time, or an 8-year-old, and they see like Chronos shield. Like I could just see like my 8-year-old self like yelling this out at the top of my lungs if I thought the character was cool. And obviously, I feel like this little like clock themed shield is super cool, and it's probably something that my little like young brain had never seen before. Like this totally gives me like a Cartoon Network or like a Nickelodeon type vibe, just because of the way it's been structured, and it's catered toward that type of audience, in my opinion, to like really give the audience everything that they want. But you could also see it as like a Naruto or a Bleach thing where they call out their attacks too. I just feel like it gives a little more lighthearted than like a traditional shonen, but I'm judging it based off of one episode. So the other episodes could end up telling a very different story. So the next thing I wanted to mention was the character intros. And this is why I was saying it's super important to have like these money shot type of moments where like the characters are introduced and you can just see this is the leading female character and this is the leading male character. And right here we get a really cool panel where this character enters onto the scene. We get to see like he's the cool guy type. He's got like the white hair. He's like showing off his watch. He's got on like cool pants, all that stuff, cool shoes. So it just gives you an overall vibe. And this is something that characters would immediately enjoy. And if you read the comic, you can see the setup for the character that I feel like this was the way they set it up. It was, so this guy, I'm gonna just tell you, so he was trying to enter and our main girl was rejecting his like entry calls. She was like, no, do not enter. Like, I don't want you here. And he just kept sending the requests. And so it makes you think like it's going to be an unattractive character, or it's going to be a character that we may not necessarily like. But then when we get his intro, immediately you're like, oh, this is the leading male character. Like this is the character that she's obsessed with, or that she wants to be with, or that she's going to end up with. So it's kind of giving a little bit of enemy to lovers, which automatically people who love that type of thing would be so into it. So it's feeding into different tropes. It's taking advantage of all of the right things in order to hook the audience. So like your money shots or the glamour shots or whatever you want to call them are just like other ways to hook readers. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people. If there's an attractive character that I'm like down bad for, like I'm hooked. I'm gonna read a little bit longer to see if we get more screen time with that character. Like back in when I was much younger and I was obsessed with Sailor Moon, I liked the outer senshi, and so like pretty much all of the episodes that I wanted to watch were with them. Like if it had the main sailors in it, I just didn't care. Which I did. I'm just saying, like, it was fun for me when those characters were involved. So despite like the action and despite the tone of everything, the series does lend itself to comedic moments, and that's where I feel like the story kind of balances itself out. So you can have a serious series, but you can also include moments in it that give like the readers a little break, like that kind of like reset their brain a little bit, so it's not so deep into like the terror of the world that you've created and the horror. But like look at the character expressions, look at the setup for some of the jokes, and look at like this is, I wouldn't say that's necessarily comedic, but there's just moments in the way that it's drawn that just lend itself to giving the reader a whole balanced experience in what's going on. Like we as people, we're complicated, we're dynamic. Like we like, we might like something, but we also like a little bit of lightheartedness. Like who doesn't like a fun joke here and there? And so this creator, like they balance them out. Like they don't show up too often, or when they do, like the jokes are set up to land more or less. And so this is another thing that people enjoy, like chibi versions of characters. Those can indicate comedic moments or indicate a moment where the main character thinks something is dumb or silly. And so don't be afraid to include that in your series either if it fits. So I just feel like it's really important to understand that although you might be crafting something serious, you can take bits and pieces from other genres. You can include mystery, you can include comedy, you can include, fantasy elements or sci-fi elements, but overall, like what you're trying to create should fit 90% of the genre that you're entering. So you can still have all these other moments and it still qualify as, whatever genre is in, which this is action. And this is where I get a little bit into the fact that this is why I think they understood the assignment so well, because it's a magical girl series. But they understood not only the genre itself, but they understood webtoons. So webtoons is heavily female focused, and that's not a bad thing, not necessarily a good thing. It's just one of the facts of webtoons. And so when they decided to create their series, instead of going like the, I don't know, Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen route, they went the magical girl route. And so this type of story would be appealing to their core demographic, which are female. And then it probably hits even further in the age demographic of females that they have on the platform. So a lot of thought went into this. It wasn't, now the creator could have just liked magical girls, but I'm thinking that they are next level genius creators and they knew the market that they were entering and decided to create a magical girl story. So, because I think it takes I feel like other people who would enter this and they were looking at a magical girl story or they were drafting out ideas, they'd be like, well, magical girls are usually for romance or for suspense or drama. Like, it's not going to really fit in action. Well, this creator decided this is what my series is going to focus in on. It's going to focus in on action. I would be interested, though, if they become an original, what genre it ends up being, because I totally could see it being in drama opposed to it being in action. And I think that would be really, really interesting just because of the fact that I think that would indicate to me it's more important to win the contest than to win the genre. If you I feel like you can win as long as you get the contract and win, who cares what the genre is? We can just change it to fit whatever we think it fits in the future. And so I'll be real interested to see if this is going to be classified as superhero or action when it comes out. Like, I'm thinking like romance superhero or drama superhero or something like that. Because I don't think Webtoons has a magical girl category. So I think that more or less covered pretty much all of my notes. The only thing that I will say is the difference. Let me just scroll to the bottom of something that I think everyone should be more aware of. Where's that panel at? I'll give you guys like one last thing about the money shot type stuff. Like, look at this. Look at the sequence. So this is also their backstory. This is an amazing way to do backstory, like having it in black and white, having like not a lot of information conveyed, but enough so that readers understand exactly what's going on. But look at the setup for this money shot. So we get this. This in itself could be a money shot to me. Then it transitions into this, which I'm like, this is a money shot in of itself. Like, we're getting the introduction. So we got like her magical item. Then we get the fact that it transforms into this like super cool magical staff. And then we see that it's setting up. We see an explanation somewhat of her powers. And it sets up into this shot. Like, that is a like back-to-back amazing setup for hooking the reader. Like, I feel like this panel in of itself is like the cover of the first volume of like if it had a physical print. Like, that just encapsulates the whole series to me, and like anybody who was reading this I think would be hooked once they made it to this panel. Like, you have to read to understand exactly what's going on. So read the episode to fully understand. But I think it's just such a perfect setup for everything that the reader's trying to do. It's perfect for action. It's perfect to show like power scaling, all of that stuff that people like make YouTube videos about, and it just works. So here's the difference with this that I don't necessarily agree with completely. And I think it's fine and I think it can work, but I think the conclusion of the webtoon doesn't set up a good hook for the next episode. Like it's a hook in of itself at the fact that they're like, well, I'll see you at the next glitch, but I don't have another question for real about what's next because I don't know what's next. So ending it here is like a soft hook, and I feel like for the contest I would have ended my last episode on a stronger hook, but this just goes to show that I'm not always right. So your ending could have like a soft hook and webtoons would be down for it. Like webtoons could be like the whole series was amazing, like I don't care that there's a soft, cliffhanger hook. Like when we acquire it, we'll just make sure that it has a better hook on at the end of the first episode or the third episode or whatever you want to count this as. So the difference with this contest was the fact that they only had one episode to do. And so I think her focus was making sure to set up everything correctly. And this is why I say it reads a little bit like Cartoon Network or Disney or Nickelodeon, is because the episode had an issue, they solved the issue, and then it sets up that, they'll have another issue the next episode. It's very episodic, opposed to the way like Webtoons structure stuff on the continuous cliffhanger. And that's why when I finished reading it, I was like, this is kind of the vibe of a like old school anime or a old school cartoon. So, but I still think it's good. So let me end this and we're going to switch over to the PowerPoint real quick. So hold on. Give me 1 second. And so here are my notes if you want to screenshot these as I go through them really briefly. But just consider how much information you can cram into your first episode. Really consider your first panels. You can set the tone. You can establish the world building. You can have exposition in the first episode, but not too much. Try and reinforce the information that you've already given the readers so that they can have a really good understanding of exactly what you're trying to say. Introduce your main character, really make them shine, really show off their personality or show off like their visuals. I didn't mention this, but the info cards in this series are so fun. And if you have info cards in yours, I definitely would say try and figure out like how that works. Like what fits the vibe of your comic and what can be something really fun, because that could be potential for future marketing stuff. Like this comic is so marketable, by the way. Like I can see this as an easy cosplay that a lot of people could do. I can see like shirts and designs and weapons and merchandise, like all from this comic. Like I feel like when Webtoons picked this, there was so much more involved in just the fact that it's a magical girl comic in an action series, which made it stand out. It has high marketability, high product value. Like I could definitely see so many items from this comic being sellable just because like they're very distinguishable. Even the Rubik's Cube thing, not the wand, just the cube, could easily be something that they could sell for the series. Like there's so much that's involved with this series. The scrunchie, which is iconic. Like this creator I would be like, you need to open a Redbubble, you need to open an Etsy, because we could sell so much of your character's attire out in the world. Like imagine a line of like that overcoat, that crop top hoodie sort of thing that the transformation has on. I feel like that would sell. It has a little heart in it. Like people would buy it that don't even know what it is just because like it's cute. So that's something else that I think can possibly go into why Webtoons might have picked it. The next thing is establishing the female lead. Establishing the lead in general. In this case, it was a female. And so they went with like personality and really like just her talking. It wasn't like an info dump for her either where she was giving you backstory. She was just like, I'm about to fight. and I'm not afraid of anybody. So impactful visuals, we've already talked about this, but especially of your MC, like you want people to want to be on the journey with this character. You want to psychologically manipulate them to make them feel like this character is important and I should be following this character in particular. So include other fun visuals. Think about the fact that a lot of this webtoon had just visuals, no dialogue other than the onomatopoeia. So just keep that in mind and then give the audience what they want. Like they gave us so many references, like the magical girl stuff, the Sailor Moon stuff, the weapons, the attacks, all of that stuff is like super duper fun and interesting. And then just keep in mind different panels, like studying different panels, like flowing panels, cool transitions, dynamic panels, like playing around with the lettering, what effects are you going to use, like all of that will be very helpful in like pushing your comic up a level. And so this is just a list of fun factors. So if you have something that you can reference that can really get your audience involved, in this case it was video games, but it could be food, it could be, you know, spooky creatures, like whatever it could be. Consider comedic moments or moments that really give the characters like abilities to shine with their personality. Character intros, like make sure those are impactful, and then whatever else, like in this case it was attack names, but maybe with yours it could be outfits, like their dresses, it could be weapons, it could be, you know, I don't know, hairstyle, like there's just so many things that you can do that's fun for the audience. Just keep that in mind when you're creating the story. Alright, so here's my question to the community. What are your tips for winning the Webtoon contest? I definitely want to know. I feel like Code Grace, the creators of this, gave us so many little bitty tips that we could take away from it that could really make our comic like top tier. So let's enter question in comments. Let me hear from you guys. What do you want to know? What do you need to ask me? Let me see if there was any comments here. Yes, the art is gorgeous. Like it kind of blows me away. And the crazy thing is that won third place. I feel like it could have won first place. So we're gonna look at the first place winner tomorrow. So come back for that. Let's see. Amateur Artist said, I don't know how to fit in so many panels in one chapter because in my previous webtoon, the latest chapter was supposed to be 49 panels, and at 44 panels, it reached the file limit. You're going to have to size it down. It's going to have to lose the art quality. I'm sorry. I wish, like, webtoons would fix that. Pauline, what do you think if I start the story with the father of the male lead character first and then introduce the male lead later because I want to establish the background of the male lead first? It would have to be a really interesting scene for the father to be introduced first because your readers are going to think that's the main character. So one, I would need to see his design. Like, is he like a hot father? Because that matters. Two, I would need to know what the scene is specifically and if it can't be placed later. Because it could work, but it also depends on, like, is it boring? So there's a difference. To us, minute things are interesting with our characters. Like, it doesn't matter what they're doing. But to the readers who have no knowledge or no information of our characters, a scene could be boring because we don't know anything. And it's like, this would have been so much more impactful later on knowing this information than now. So it just depends. Oh, so Calmay is offering advice. They said export your panels as a JPEG, the amateur cartoonist. If you're exporting it as anything else, the file size will be huge. Stealthy Mouse, squeak! Or am I supposed to caw? I don't know what type of bird I am, but caw! Said lower the DPI for smaller export size. You don't need DPI for digital viewing, only print. Yep. Helene said, or no, Mitch said, new comic in Jump does that. I legit thought the dad was the MC at first. Was super interesting. Yeah, so they said it's called Hero Organization. So I that's what I'm saying. It could work. Like, I don't know. I need more information to really offer you any sort of advice. Okay, is crappie still around? Like, do people still use that? I'm really curious. I thought it shut down. Are you? Yeah, yeah. So I'm covering Scale Hunter tomorrow at like 1:30, and then I'm going to cover Flag Bearer on Friday. So I've got a lot going on this week. We're gonna finally cover these other comics. I'm super super excited. Let's see. Okay, Rizkey, do I hook people up if I tell you that my MC has no name or past identities, that even her husband, male lead, calls her Miss Lortite to respect it? I'm not sure what you mean. I'll need more details. I don't know if that's necessarily a hook. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's what I meant. Is he a DILF? Panelin said, I have two characters. I don't know which should be the MC. Which, okay, listen. Guys, for the contest, put forth whoever is the most interesting. It does not matter. Figure out, like, you're only submitting 3 episodes. Like, I think people are so hard pressed right now on like the story as a whole. Just worry about the first 3 episodes. Like, you can figure out the rest later. Just get those 3 episodes done so that you can enter the contest and make sure they're the most interesting that they could be. And since you only have 2 characters, basically they can you can do like 2 leads. So I don't know. I guess it just depends. Like, unless you just want to stick to like one character specifically. George said, I'm starting my comic with a time skip and it worries me that people will be confused. Don't make it confusing then. Simplify what's going on and then really indicate that there's a time skip. Like, Dr. Stone does a time skip pretty much. So, and nobody was confused about that. And it's crazy complicated. Like it's not complicated because like the creators stripped it down to what it was, like in the simplest of forms. But like if you really think about it, it's kind of complicated. So that's why I'm like, just strip it down and make it as simple as possible and then go from there. Kais, oh, you're talking to Slime said, flat coloring is going to be torture. I'm dreading that step in the process big time. Me too. You guys have no idea how much I'm dreading everything. I'm struggling over here. Like, I'm so behind already. Like, I was supposed to have scripts done, but like between my draft phase and my alpha phase for feedback on the script, I just got too many good notes that I had to make adjustments to the script. So I'm a little behind, but I think I'll get back on track in February. Cantella said, will they judge more than 3 episodes though? Like, will they judge even look at more than 3? So from what I understood, yes. Somebody sent me a DM of this, and Cantella, if you remind me, I'll send it to you too. I'm not looking at it right now, and I'd have to find it because I don't know where it is. So once I find it, I'll let all of you know. But from what I understood, they'll look at everything that you submit. The amateur cartoonist said, I love flat coloring and rendering. It's the sketch phase that tests my patience. Oh man, dude, like you're on a different level then. Rambler said, the part for me that's most difficult is shading. I have no clue how to shade. Like, I can only do cell shading for real. Every other type of shading I've tried has just been pure chaos. Kamai said, I am almost tempted to hire someone to help with flats, but I don't know if it would be worth it. I say if you're not done by April, like hire somebody. If not, just keep chucking away at it. Like don't hire anybody too quickly unless you just know. Like I know I'm going to need help. Zion said fast food restaurants all serve chicken. But what makes each of these brands different is how they prepare and the packaging. Being unique and the reader experience counts volumes. It 100% does. That's a really good analogy. Like, I wouldn't compare KFC and Zaxby's and Chick-fil-A to all be the same thing, but they're all serving chicken. Like, they all make the same thing, but it's so different from each one of them. And, like, the vibes of each restaurant are so different. So that's a really good analogy. Like, you're creating a product, essentially. Like, sometimes I think people forget that you're actually making something for someone else to enjoy. So just keep that in mind. Like, just remember that although you are making something that is very self-indulgent, you're making it for other people to enjoy as well. Yes, get your siblings to help and then send them my way so they can help me. Ephemirs, what are you doing? How are you doing? Are you okay? I need to DM you. I still need to write my scripts. I've had no time. I'm surprised you aren't just entering your comic as is. Like, what are you rewriting? Are you making a new story for this? What's happening? Like, I need to know. I need details. DM me, please. Are you said cell shading is the best shading? Agreed, agreed, agreed. Ooh, yes, yes, yes. Please let me in on all your shading secrets. I need to know everything. Since there are older contests mentioned in the rules, they only look at the first episode for one episode contest, but this one didn't mention it. Yeah, it didn't. I'm really curious if they're going to look at more than the first 3 episodes. Like, I'm really, because I kind of feel like that could put people up, give them a leg up, like if you have more episodes because you're telling more story. But then I'm also like, if you're not able to tell good story within 3 episodes, like, is it worth it? Like, I don't know. Like, that'd be really, this is where the subjective part comes in. Oh, I wanted to address this. So someone asked me in a comment, like, they were like, is it really subjective if the rules are outlined? And I just want to say this, like, all art is subjective, so there's no way for it to be like a factual contest, because to me the opposite of something being subjective is factual. So I do see what you're saying, that there's clear rules, but a story that could hit a 20, like from a test standpoint in each category, does not mean that it's a good story. It just means that it's effectively conveying the information in a way that meets the criteria. But it could have no heart, it could not be fun, it could be boring. Like, there's so many factors that go into this that make it subjective. Otherwise, like, we would just rate based off of like A, B, or C for series and go from there. But like, even popular things, like things that people view to be critically acclaimed, to be like something that the masses love, there are people that hate it. And like hate it for logical reasons. So this is why I say, like, there's no way in an artistic contest for people to just be like, yeah, well, I followed all the rules, so I should win. No, that's not how artistic contests work. You can agree or disagree with me. That's completely up to you. But I feel that there are a number of factors as to why a corporation would throw a contest and offer so much money, because they want new IP. And if your IP doesn't fit what they want, they're not going to select you. And I feel like that's the unbiased, you know, that's just the complete truth. Like, if I was in a business and you made another Lore Olympus and I didn't want another Lore Olympus, I'd be like, well, we're obviously not picking that series. And like, why would I invest in you and I don't want to work with you in the future? Like, there's so many things involved in this that I think like people don't necessarily always consider. And I just think from a business standpoint, a business is going to do what a business is going to do. Like, this is not an academic contest, nor is this like a fun contest. This is a business contest. Like, Webtoons is making a business move. And obviously, they're going to try and make their money count for whatever they spend it on. But that's just me. That's just me. We can agree to disagree on that. But I had to get on my soapbox for a second. Serenity said, do you recommend being strict with the panel numbers or maybe make more than 40 in the first episode to have a privilege? I would say like if you can stick close to the 40, that probably would be good. But I think that you need to make as many panels that'll tell the story in the best way possible. Like if you need 70 or 90 panels to tell your first episode, then that's what you got to do. Yeah, but yeah, keep in mind the minimum is 40, so you can't go below that. But as many as it takes. It's going to be a new story. I'm really interested in this. You're not trying to win. I hope you win. I'm sending you positive vibes. Jess, what's the max? Wintermelon, I'm thinking of switching my main lead after the first 3 chapters to another character who's related to her, kind of like a fake out. Do you think this might make readers upset? I'm kind of worried. Is this for the contest? It just depends on the setup. Is there a logical reason for the switching? Is there an exciting reason for the switching? Or are you just doing this because like you think it's kind of cool? Like, I need a little bit more backstory, and I would also need to know specifically what's going on. But I will say I've read stories where I really like a character, and then the writer switches POV, and I hated it. I'm like, I didn't want to read this. I wanted to stay with that character. So if you're switching POV, it's got to be interesting. Like, think Game of Thrones interesting, where like there's so much going on that it's like, oh yeah, I'm down for this other character and whatever they're doing. Yeah, there wasn't a, so Serenity, I don't think there was a panel limit on the CTA. Casual, hello. For shading, just use one layer and then alpha lock to paint the shade into what fits the scene. I'm going to try that. Thank you very much for the suggestion. Yes, there's a website. Okay. Rambler said, the only thing I saw that might be objective is audience engagement. I think they'd be able to see how many views / comments you get. Yes, but even that I think is subjective, because if we look at the past winners who also had audience as a factor, like the views did not match. Like some people had less comments, some people had more comments, some people's ratings were low, some people's ratings were high, some people's likes were high, some people's likes were low, some people's views were high, some people's views were low. And like you would think like, okay, like the person with the most views or most likes would be in the top 3. That wasn't necessarily the case. It was super random. So I think there's like a scale. Like there's probably something that shows like if we marketed this, it would blow up. So because like at the end of the day, we're all posting in a sea of other people posting. So let's say that there's 5,000 people that enter this contest. That doesn't mean that everybody's even going to see your series. And then like with the fact that people just like are probably going to drop 3 episodes and leave, like that makes it hard for readers to find the series unless they look for it. Because I don't think Webtoons recommends Canvas series like to readers who are reading originals. And I wonder if they recommend, like, I can't think about Canvas. I haven't read any Canvas stories in a while where I was paying attention to the recommendations, because I never pay attention to the recommendations even when I read originals. That'll be something to look up. Somebody look up and see like if you finish a Canvas episode, does it recommend other Canvas series or does it recommend originals? I'd be really curious to know. Just said, I ran out of space for the call to action. Even though I was keeping track, I calculated wrong. Dang, that sucks. So you had to cut some panels. Scarlett, I wanted to post mine weekly, but I'm not sure if we have entered it all at once. Do you have any guesses about that? I think you can just enter it weekly. As long as there's 3 episodes by the time that submissions close, you should be fine. Gee! Apollo, this contest has me motivated as heck. I usually can only get half a page done per day, but today I made 5 pages and I'm not even burnt out. What? That's awesome. But like, don't let that adrenaline fool you. Take breaks, drink some water, go outside. But I like the grind mentality. I'm trying to grind too. I feel it. You guys are hyping me up so much for this. Okay, Rizkai, the reason I let my MC be unnamed is to make a self-immersive character. Other than that is spoiler. Now I realize how trivial this hook is. Okay. I mean, it could still work. I just don't know if that would necessarily be a hook. It sounds like an amnesia type character. So, I mean, a character having amnesia is not unusual in this day and age. So, I would need something else to hook me. Like, would I be curious about his situation? Yes. But also, I would need more details to, like, really be like, yeah, that's a hook. Like, did he get hit by, like, an elephant? Like, that would be a hook to me. I'm kidding. Because her past will come to her present and more her husband know about it. I don't know. Like, I still need more details. Oh, Millie, so Canvas on yours. So does it like make suggestions of like popular Canvas, or is it like algorithm? Like, that would be my next thing. Like, I'm very curious if it's just like picking the same popular series or if it's like something legitimately reasonable. Kalmai, I managed to finish my first episode already. I'm on that grind. You really are. Guys, I cannot wait to read your episodes. Like, I'm kind of worried that I'm not going to get a chance to read everybody's, but I definitely want to make that list so that everybody who like comes and hangs out here, that I can check it out and we can stream it and we can read it together. That would be super fun. Lord, I can already imagine, like, it's gonna take me forever. I don't know if I'll be able to stream everybody's comics. Oh, because like, even when I do the dramatic readings, I can only do like 5 comics at a time just because it takes so long to get through them. I don't even know. I gotta think about this. Hello everyone. My biggest advice is to know your strengths and weaknesses. I spent 3 weeks working on a drama series only to realize I should be doing comedy. Hey, but no. Like, that is a part of the process. When you're working your way through something, you kind of figure out things as you work on it. Like, that's just a part of the creative process. Now, I will say, if you were writing it and you were making a bunch of jokes and just didn't realize, I would be like, dude, this is a comedy. But switching genres isn't that huge of a deal. I would just say to look up, like, what's expected from comedy readers. Like, do they expect a joke every 10 panels? Do they expect a joke, one joke an episode? Like, what's the vibe? So that's the only thing I would think about. Yes, isekai by an elephant. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a funny story. So, me and Poe used to think about what is it called? Potential stories that we were going to write, and one of them was called Truck Coon, and it was about a truck that would like interdimensional teleport to different areas and timelines and historical periods to run people over so that they could be isekai. And we just thought it was so funny. We were like, this would be like such a funny webtoon. So you can steal the idea if you want. I don't care. So I'm just like, I would love, like that's the vibe. It's a slapstick sort of vibe, but I think it's super funny. Millie said popular canvas is what I mostly see. See, that's what I'm wondering. I wonder if it's like an auto-generated type thing. It's like, oh, you're reading Canvas, here's the popular ones. Oh, you're reading originals, here's the popular ones. This is why I'm like, I feel like it's going to be, the algorithm has to be a little more fair because they know how their algorithm is and they know how many webtoons are on Webtoons. Like, I think it's kind of crazy to me that there is an audience participation factor because there's not a like the algorithm to me, which I'm not like a tech boy, but the algorithm to me doesn't like feed you what you want to read. It feeds you what's popular. So once you post it and after that initial boost, I don't think you'll get another boost. So I feel like it has to be balanced on the popular scale. Paneling. So I decided that my MC is going to be the guy with the amnesia, but the reason he has amnesia isn't revealed until the climax, so I don't know if that'd work. I think that could work. You just need to, the biggest thing is making sure like the emotional beats read well. Bye. Hi Apollo, I have a dilemma as for art style. I like line arts and styles that are normally used in senins / shonens, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man. Sharper, not very smooth. Okay, I think that sounds good. How reasonable is it to enter romance genre with this art style? Honestly, I feel like that could really work. Like it gives, like if you did enter with something like that, it would kind of give like, it would make it stand out from the other like manhwa type stuff, I think. And I think it would be really cool because it gives your comic an immediate visual factor that the other comics don't have. I don't know what type of romance it is, but I think of things like The Nightmare Before Christmas. Not Nightmare Before Christmas. Is that it? The one with like Jack the Skeleton or whatever? Like that's like super visually interesting because it's so different. So like that Tim Burton sort of style works for him and it has like an immediate visual interest for people. So depending on how the characters look and how they're drawn, like that could really work. And since you're entering romance, I mean, as long as the characters are simp worthy, like the Jujutsu Kaisen boys, people are obsessed with. Like, I like we've got like people over here in America, like in the rap community, like talking about Gojo. So I'm like, I think you could make it work. Yeah, you can make it work for sure. Oh yeah, Unholy Blood is a good example. Like that has a much sharper artistic style from like the more pretty True Beauty type of like webtoon people. So that could work. That could work. Just make sure to show off the dude's abs in like episode 1. Like let that be the opening panel. Like no context. Just a goob. I mean, there is a Truck-kun anime / manga that I've seen in passing. LOL. Wish I could remember the name now. Oh, I would love to read that. See, this is where I'm like, ideas are not universal. Rambler said Jack Skeleton. Yeah, that's Nightmare Before Christmas. There's also Corpse Bride. Exactly. Like, just go. Like, you never know. Like, you really never know how something visually interesting is going to go. Oh yeah, Day Day, you do love JJK Men. Like you have a video about it. So guys, if you need something to check out and listen to, please check out Day Day Does. Like she's hilarious. She's amazing. She makes really informative content. She has like a video that goes over the rules that I think is really beneficial. So definitely check it out. It can really help everybody. And check out her other content. She has some fun takes on stuff. Millie said my series is romance / drama, but it's aliens in an entire alien world. Should the genre be switched to sci-fi? Is this for the contest? Like if it's for the contest, it has to be one of the 4 categories. Like you can't enter it as something else. Like you could enter it as a subdrama, sub genre as sci-fi, so the secondary one, but the first one has to be one of the main 4 that they mention. Yep. Yes. I'm really interested to see what you've made by. Like, I'm very interested. Aryu said, oh, do we know if regular people can read the contest entry or just judges? No, regular people have to be able to read it for the audience participation. Like, we've always, in every contest, we've had access to be able to read the entries. The amateur cartoonist said, mystery shirt of male lead is gone, covered in blood and scars, and offers female lead a helping hand. You okay, Pookie? Not the Pookie. I'm out. I can't do this with you. I cannot do this with you. Slime said, considering the love interest in my story is a werewolf, stripping in order to shift is a great excuse for abs. Yep. You guys understand the assignment. I can already hear Webtoons being like, why are all these people like entering with these shirtless men? What is going on? And then they see this video and they're like, what the heck? Andy, you're talking to Cantella. Cantella said, I think some action genre has done shirt explosions for super muscular guys. Yeah, that is also a thing. Whatever the people want. Give the people what they want. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to jump off. I really appreciated tonight's stream. Today's creator shout out goes to Heterochromia. Please follow the creator. I have their information linked down below. You can pause the screen to read the summary. The art looks amazing. Like, I think it looks so much fun, and I love the way the characters look, and I love that they both have heterochromia. Like, that's so cool. A thank you to all of our patrons. I'm finally figuring out how I want Patreon to go. Oh, and thank you to my new patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. But we've got a Queen's Game stream coming up this week, as well as I will be doing another stream at the end of the month. I haven't decided if it's going to be a news stream or if it's going to be a stream of me yapping. Cube! What the mess? Thank you so much. Like, what are you guys doing? I don't even know what to say. Like, that just like blew my mind. Thank you. I appreciate you so much, guys. Like, I just have to, I don't know what to say. I'm lost for words. I don't even know what I say, but I'm so grateful. You guys make streaming so much fun, and it's always a good time. Like, I love getting a chance to talk with you guys, to help you with your series, and I just really appreciate everything that you guys are doing when you come out and hang out with me, and I'm so glad that we can have honest conversations about stuff. Cube, you are MVP of tonight. Thank you so much. There was a lot of MVPs tonight, but I really appreciate, you showing your appreciation that way. All right, I'll catch you in the next video.